My name is Monica, and we'll be starting our webinar now. I work with the implementation team here at Extra Help, and we'll be going over our new cloud-based system. Our cloud-based system is a newer addition to our products. It is cloud-based, meaning anywhere that you have access to the internet, whether it be a Mac computer, a laptop, a tablet, your actual phone, you'll be able to access this software from any of those devices. That's why it gets the title Employer on the Go. So anywhere you're at, you'll be able to access your payroll database and get any questions answered that you may need. I will be holding all questions till the end, so if you do have questions, please type them in your question box of your webinar menu that pops up on the side of your screen. And once we have time, I'll hit all of those questions and get them answered for you. If we do run out of time, I will access those and get you answers via email. So when you open up your actual system itself, you will be assigned a username and a password. We load all of your information in it, so you do not get a blank database. You'll be working with your live information. It opens up to what we call a dashboard. On our dashboard, we have our shortcuts. And our shortcuts will be links to get us right to the information when we need it. On the system, what you will use it for is you can maintain all your employee information. So for all your employees, if you had a deduction change or someone wants to change their withholdings, you can access their live database, make that change, save it, and it instantly updates on the payroll side. From there, you can also run reports. So if we have an employee that comes to us and they want their last 6 months' earnings, you can access your reports, run that report. You can email it to them through the system. You can print it and hand it to them. We also have HR portion of the system, which is logging information. We can log our reviews. We can schedule those reviews out and make it show up on a calendar so us as the administrator know when those are coming up and when we be available to do those. We also can enter all of our payroll information. So on our payroll side, if we are entering our hours, we have some employees, we can actually do that from our phone. Enter those hours, we can go as far as processing those payrolls. Once we process those payrolls, we can view the actual register and even go as far as closing that so we can get our payroll documents and get our total payroll expense. From that, we can make our payroll transfer. So that's kind of what we would use this system for, maintaining our employees, entering our payroll hours, and running reports. On our dashboard, you can see all of those icons here. So I'm going to start with the employees. So if we want to view our employees or we want to add a new employee, we would use our 2 employee shortcuts here. So if we just want to view them and maybe make a change for an employee, I'll click on that link here. It'll take us directly to our list of active employees. It does archive all of our inactive employees, so at some point we change our status on any of those. We can then change our status up here to show all of our employees. It will then show all the employees in the database. So none of that information is ever purged. So let's work with Mr. Frank Alexander here. So if I highlight them, you can see he's highlighted because he's grayed out. You can also see that he's been selected because his name shows up here at the top. If we want to see maybe he had an address change, you can double-click on Frank, and it's going to open up his database. So now we're in the edit mode, and we can tell we're in the edit mode because none of the information is grayed out, and we're able to update information. So on our General Information tab, we have General Information, last name, first name, Social Security. We can see start dates. We have their EEO categories here. So through the system, we can generate EEO-1 reports. To do that, of course, you have to have the information filled in on all of your employees. All of that is located on the General tab. If we have an employee that's changing their departments, we can do that also on the General tab here. We have the 3 tiers. So we do have the division, the location, and the department. So those are all customizable to your business. So we would set those up, and then you have the access of changing those. So if we say Frank switched from maybe the office to the shop, we would just change that there, hit our Save button. That then locks it into the system. If we go on to our next tab, the Contact Information, and we had an address change. And this is our demo account, so let me make some changes here. we'd be able to make that change here. So if he maybe moved to a different street address, we can change that there. It then locks it into the system. Any changes you guys are making from your guys' side flows directly over to our side since this is a cloud-based system. On our pay info, we can then make any pay rate changes. So if we have an employee that maybe went from $15 to $16 an hour, you can input that here, save it. Once again, it locks it into the system. So you have the capability of maintaining all your employees' information and having all that information at your fingertips. We have variable pay. So if we have employees that are working maybe at multiple departments or doing different jobs, and we are paying them based on the job that they are doing, we can set that up into the system. That way when we're coding hours in our enter payroll link to those different departments or those jobs, the system knows how to assign the pay rates. That way when we're processing the payroll, it looks at those departments, references this variable pay, and assigns those pay rates and processes the payroll correctly. The system will also do a job history. So for example, when I hit save, since I just changed the pay rate, it's going to log that I changed that pay rate. So we have a chronological order of where maybe that employee started and where they're at today. We have full access to all of our deductions. So if we have an employee that maybe their uniform deduction changed, we can edit that by clicking on this pencil. It'll open up, so we're in the edit mode on our deductions. We can go over to our dollar amount, and let's say that went to $25. Just change that $25, hit the check mark to update it, and it locks it into the system. That way when we're processing payroll now, it's going to pick up the $25 uniform deduction every pay and withhold it from the employee's check, opposed to the $20 that was there before. You also have the capability of viewing all of our accrual balances. So once again, the accruals are customizable to your individual company. You can have as many as you'd like, and the accrual balances, the amount earned and used, are located in the employee profiles. So that's their home base. So you'll be able to see all that information here. We have our direct deposits on our direct deposit tab. You also have the capability of adding and deleting those. If we have a new direct deposit, so we want to add maybe a savings account, you can hit the new button here. It'll open up our field, so now we can start typing. The good thing about this system is it has a couple of different double checks on it. So if we enter a routing number, it should automatically default the bank name. So once I hit the tab button, I'll be able to enter the account name, the account number, excuse me, twice. It will make us do it twice, and it'll make sure that those numbers that we entered do match each other. And that's our second verification on our direct deposit. We can then select the account type, whether it be a pay card, checking, or a savings account, along with our calculation method, whether we want a fixed amount or a percent of our net, or if this is actually going to be the remainder account. So we would select that there, as well as entering our dollar or our percentage, depending on what we picked. From there, we can hit the check mark. It'll lock it into the system, and then next payroll that we're processing, it'll take that new account into effect. On the system, you can have as many direct deposit accounts as you like, so they would all be listed here. You can also keep inactive accounts as well. So if we just wanted to inactivate one of these accounts here, we can hit the edit button and then check these boxes to make it inactive. Once we do that, it's still logging the information in the system, but since it's not active, their pay will not be distributed to that account. It'll just go to this first account that's listed as active. The last tab in the employee is the withholding. On the withholding, we're pulling information from the employee's W-4s, their withholding certificates. So depending on how they filled those out, we would pull those and fill this information in. So whether it's single, head of household, or married, we would pull that in there. We have our deductions or exemptions here, so we list those out. We also have the capability of doing the additional withholding, as well as only withholding a flat amount. So if we have an employee, and that's how this demo account is set up, just to show an employee that just wants $200 federal withheld every pay period, we would enter the $200 here, check the box to withhold the additional amount only. So that we'll skip this in the calculation and only withhold $200. Depending on what state you're working with, determines if there's a status or not. For example, Illinois doesn't go by statuses, it just goes by exemptions and withholding amount, which is why this one is blank. So they're doing the one exemption with the additional $10 withholding. So once you've made all of your changes, you'll have to always remember to hit your save button. Once you hit your save button, it locks all those changes in and takes you back to your employee list. From your employee list, you can use your sorting features. So it always defaults to your active and, of course, by alphabetical order by last name. But if we did want to sort our employees by the different locations or departments, we can scroll over to find those tabs, and then you just drag those columns up. Once you drag those columns up, it will sort your employees for you. You can do multiple tiers, so if you want it by location and department, you just pull both of those up, and it will certainly do that for you. The system does know how you like to see your information, so next time that you access the system, it will be in the same format as when you left it. Of course, if you want to not see that information anymore, you can always drag it down too, and it'll put it back to alphabetical order. So those are just some options in the actual system itself. If we are here and we've made all of our edits that we currently have and we need to now add a new employee, you can select the Add button here at the bottom. It'll open up the blank template where now we can start filling the information in. It'll automatically default to the next available ID number so that you will not have to enter. Red asterisks are mandatory tabs or mandatory fields that you'll have to fill in. So last name, first name, and social, as well as their status here at the top. We have several different statuses that we can classify our employees as. Once you're done entering all those informations and going through all the tabs, you hit your Save button at the bottom. It locks it in and adds that employee to your new screen. Anytime you want to get back to your home dashboard, you just hit this Home button up here at the top, and it'll take you back to your dashboard with all your shortcuts on it. We also have the shortcut for the Add Employee here, so if we didn't have to maybe do any adjustments or maintenance to any of the other employees and we just want to add in, that'll take you directly to the blank profile. You can start typing in. If we have a company or you're managing a company that has several different FEIN numbers, you can basically have the same login for all your companies. You would just have this drop-down box here that shows all the different companies you have access to. So you can toggle back and through both databases from the same login, depending on what company you have pulled in up here at the top. So that is an option that I do like to point out. I'm going to jump over here to our Enter Payroll link here. So this is our first shortcut. So if we have the capability and we're ready to enter all our payroll hours, you can, of course, click on the link. It's going to take us to what we call our Rapid Pay. And it's fillable boxes so we can key all our employees' hours in. We tell the system through our setup, and you can change it at any time, what columns you want to show so that you're able to enter all the information you need for each week's payroll. So for example, if I go to my setup, it's going to take me to a screen showing all of the earnings codes that we have selected or set up for that company, and once again, those are customizable to your business. We would just check those columns that we want to see. So maybe, for example, we weren't doing commission and bonus, so we don't want to see those headers up at the top. So I'll just unselect those, hit the Save button. It'll take us back to our entry with our new columns selected or our new columns taken away. So if you notice, I deselected some of those, so now my scroll bar is off of the bottom of our screen, so now we can see all of our columns. We can sort all of our information. You can see right now we're sorted by company ID, but you can sort by last name, first name, any way you want to see your information. We have our recap up here, so right now we're entering for our semi-monthly with our pay period start and end date, as well as our pay date. So we just go through here and we key in our information. As you know, you can see actually our pay rate listed here. So for example, Jill Brown's pay rate is listed as $1,500 with a salary. So what happens on her, the system will automatically pay her that salary once the payroll is processed. We don't have to enter any hours for her or anything like that. If we, let's say she used 16 hours of sick time, so we're just using that for accrual purposes because we want her to reduce her bank balance by that 16 hours. So we would key that in there. If we have the option where maybe a salary person's on some sort of leave and they're not getting paid on just this one time, we have a column that's called Pay Override where we can access that on our setup, make it show, so we can then put a 0, and it'll zero out her salary just for that pay period. So it's not something that you'll have to go to her profile, zero her salary out, go back in after the payroll is processed and enter it again. So we do have all of those capabilities. If we have those employees that are working in the multiple departments and have different pay rates for those, we can certainly do that in the system as well. We would do that by adding a new line for those employees. So how we would do that is we would highlight them, so they're highlighted them because they're bold, and hit this add button here at the bottom. Once we hit that add button, it inserts another line for that employee that we had selected. So as we see, we have Frank Alexander here with 2 lines. We can change his department. Let's say these 10 hours were worked in St. Louis payroll. We can make that change there. And let's pick a different one that we know is set up and has a different rate. So it's pulling all of these rates from the actual payroll system itself. And it's pulling it from their actual profile and that variable pay tab. So what we have listed there will pull their pay rate here. So for example, it's zeroing out because Maine is not listed in his variable pay. So we would just enter all of that information. Once we've entered everything that we have, we hit the Save button down here at the bottom. It locks it into the system and flows directly over to our payroll system. So if we have maybe all of the employees, but we're just waiting on maybe one time card, you can enter everything you have. Then once you get that new time card for that one employee we were missing, you can always re-access the system, enter it in there, and your information will still be showing. From here, like I mentioned at the top, you can take the information as far as you want. You can go as far as processing the payroll, generating your payroll register, and even doing the final close if that's something you'd like. If you just want to use it, and we have many employees that just use it for entering their hours, you can just enter your hours, let your processor know that you've entered those, we process them, do the close, and then you get your final email with your payroll documents and your check stubs. So that availability to take it all the way is out there, but if you just want to use it for keying information in, of course you can do that as well. I scroll back here to my home and back to my desktop here. So we've went over entering the payroll hours and maintaining all of our employees. So the next portion is the reporting feature. So we always have our employees coming up to us and they're wanting reports. We can run all those reports for them now. We have our report wizard and we have our quick reports. Quick reports are reports across the board from everyone that is actually using the payroll software itself, the most run payrolls. Payroll reports. So for example, payroll summary is the one that's ran the most. So we can actually view that using our quick reports rather than going through our report wizard and finding that. So for example, all our pay dates will be archived here. If we have a custom date, of course, you can enter those there. We can determine what kind of format we want to see our report in. Let's say it's Adobe. We click our View button, and we'll run the report for the pay date that we have selected. So our report will generate on our screen. From there, we can print it and we can save it. So here's an example of our payroll summary report, telling our total payroll expense, as well as the amount that us as a service bureau, extra help will be pulling from your account to cover. So depending on what type of client structure you're set up as, will determine how your payroll expense summary reads. We red X out, we're back to our screen. So on our quick reports, we have our summary, we have payroll register. All these reports are built off the payroll date, so you're going to see payroll reports. We have our employee detail file, so just an employee report, as well as deduction and general ledgers. On our report wizard, this is where we get into more complex reporting. So we have types and we have categories. So here's our payroll types and our categories that appear under each of those types. Of course, the majority of the time you'll be running a payroll register, so that's why it defaults to payroll and payroll register. But we do have other reporting out there that you would be able to run. For example, our general ledgers. If you have QuickBooks and you're doing a QuickBooks export, we can build that into your reporting so you have the capability of running those reports. We have our HR reports. We have ACA reporting built into our report wizard so you can run those reports, get your average hours for your employees, get your part-time and full-time equivalent employee count. So those reports are available out there for you to run. We have our standard employee reports, whether it be a birthday, anniversary, detail file report. We also have the capability of rerunning W-4s, W-9s, I-9s. So for example, we have an employee in the system, and we're one of those employers that makes our employees fill out new W-4s every start of the calendar year. We can pre-populate a lot of that information on those W-4s so the employees only have to check their marital status, enter their exemptions, enter their additional amount, sign and date it. So that capability is in the system. We have our payroll reporting, which includes our check registers, any deduction reports, some more employee reports based on payroll information, of course payroll register, tax liability, and tip reporting. So we'll enter here into our payroll register. We'll use our command buttons here at the bottom. So we'll just go next. It goes through the tiering that we have set up for your company. So once again, that's divisions, locations, and departments. So if we want to run it for all of those employees, we would select all. Right now, as you can see, we have all our employees showing here. So if we only wanted to show our active employees, we would use our drop-down box. So now we have all our actives, and let's say we just wanted to run a report for Frank. So I'll just highlight Frank. It unchecks my select all box here by just clicking on him. So I'll go next. Well, now we're to our date range, so we can do it by a custom date range here. These are payroll dates. So if we just wanted it for one payroll, we can put those payroll dates there. If we want it by month, we would select that radio button and select the month as well as the year that we want to run it for. The same by quarter, or we can even do it by year. Once we have our date range selected, you can go next. And then here's all the different payroll registers that are built into the system that you are able to run. We have a couple of different options down here. This system automatically defaults to minutes. We can change the format of those to show by decimal by selecting that box here. We also have a lot of capability on this system of showing totals only. So if we're working on a project outside of payroll and we have someone working on it, but we don't necessarily want that person to see individual employee wages, we can run like a payroll register by client structure, which means by department, and we only show totals. So we can get true numbers for those departments and only totals, so the person that may be working on that report doesn't necessarily see the employee individual wages who make up that total. So we do have those options down here. We have reporting, so payroll detail file shown by employee will give us a lump sum or a cumulative total for the date range that was entered for each of those employees selected. If we want to show it by pay period, so we entered a date range or we have that employee that wants their last 6 months earning, we would use with employee total, so it would break down our report by payroll so they can see their net pay for each pay date. So once we have those, once again you pick your formatting. Once you click your formatting, you run the report. It once again generates on your screen so you can view, print, save, any of those aspects. The system does have a built-in fax and email system. It'll default to your email since your email is set up with your login. Then you just type in who you want to send it to. From there it goes to that person's email address. The same with the fax. And when they basically reply to that, it's coming from your email, so it'll go to your email box, and it's not a system where you'll have to re-access your on-the-go login to see if that person responded. So there are those capabilities, built-in fax and email options. So that's the reporting part of the system itself. From here, we have a couple more icons on our shortcuts that I like to show you. We have our payroll doc. So once we go through the whole payroll process where you've done all your maintenance for that employee, you've entered all your hours, we've processed it. Once we process it, there's a set of payroll documents that either get emailed, posted, printed, and mailed that come directly to the person that's allowed to see that information. From here, we can also archive all that information. So if we change this to all, and we change this to history, everything goes to history once we've printed it here. We can access all the information of the payroll documents that are printed or emailed. So your document set, you'll have access to all of those. So once again, here's the reports that make up your document set. From here, we would select our report type, and we'd click our View button, and it'll generate it on our screen. So here's a copy of the check stubs. So you'll have access to all that archived information as well through the system itself. The last function of the system, of course, is the HR. So if I click on my HR shortcut here, it brings us to our HR portion of the program. Once again, this is in there. It's not mandatory that you fill all this information out, but we do like to show it, so it's there in case it's something that you see beneficial on your guys' side. We have general and we have contact. So we can log information in the system, which then we can generate reports off of. So here's general information, whether it be driver's license, any sort of thing that you feel in general that you'd like to track would be listed here. We have our contacts. This is where we log our general and our emergency contact information. It's going to go as far as telling us the relationship of that person, their phone number, as much information as we can type in. It'll allow us to do that. Education, we can track any type of certification, whether we have employees working with us that are going through, whether it be college or an advanced degree program. We can log all that, view our completion dates, things like that. We can do our trainings and our tests. If we require any type of certification, we can put those certifications in the system. We can even put expiration dates on those certifications or those tests, which the system will then allow us to track on our HR calendar as long as we have that option turned on. So it'll let us know once those are coming up, so then we can get with the employee and make sure that they've done the necessary actions to get that renewed. We have property, so we can track any property that we have any of our employees have, whether it be a key to our building, a laptop, or a phone. We can track all of that information. That way, if there ever comes a time where that employee no longer works for you, you can access your property tab in your HR to know what you need to collect from them. And the last one is the review section. So we can log reviews for our employees, whether it be annual, merit, or even there's another category for everything that falls under that. We can go as far as giving it a rating, who the reviewer was, whether that review resulted in a promotion, whether that promotion also included a raise, the raise here, the total raise, and then the big one on the review section is we can schedule them out. So the next review, that also is tied to an HR alert that we can show on our payroll calendar. You can also do comments, so we can type a lot of information on those. From all of this log, remember, we can generate reports off of them. So this is where we're logging information that we can then generate reports off of. A couple more things to point out here. We can tie your login if you are using our timekeeping system to it. So we can put a shortcut on here for your swipe clock. That will take you directly to your swipe clock, so you have one login and able to access both systems through it. We have our payroll and HR calendar here. So this is what I was mentioning we can tie our HR alerts to. So if we select that tab, We have our calendar pulled up here. I have it selected by month, but of course you can do week and day as well. We tell the system what we want to see. So for example, I have my HR alerts turned on. So if we do have an employee certification expiring or we do have a review that we have scheduled coming up, the system will let us know that. So for example, here's the one for Frank. We have our birthdays turned on. We have our anniversaries turned on, and we have our pay dates. So the system will let us know when those things are coming up, and we'll be able to see who actually has them. The last tab on our screen here is our charts and our graphs. So at an HR standpoint, this is a great feature. We have our graphs that we can compare information side by side. So for example, we pull in our calculation method here. For this example, I have wages by location. So I have our March pay dates pulled in here, and I have our March pay dates pulled in here. So let's pull in our February. So now we can do a side-by-side comparison of wages by location on a previous month compared to a current month. So for example, in February, based on the criteria that I filled in, all of our wages either went to our Edwardsville or St. Louis location. But in March, you can see the majority of it went to our Marion location. So there's all kinds of calculation methods or data that you can see compiled side by side that you may be able to get something from an HR standpoint out of. Active employees by division, location, department. We can separate them by state. We can separate them by tax groups.
Thank you.
And of course, division, locations, and departments. We can tell, of course, custom date ranges. We can tell what type of graph we like to see. And then we can choose the coloring, the appearances, the coloring of how you want to see it. So just a good little HR point that we do have, and that is available for you to use through the system itself. And that is on-the-go product itself. Once again, it is cloud-based. You can access it from Chrome. You can access it from Safari. You can access it from Mozilla. You can access it from your Android phone, your iPhone, anywhere it's cloud-based. So you can access it from any device. You can use it to do your employee maintenance. You can enter your hours. You can add new employees, reporting, and of course your HR. So it's all available out there. Once again, if you have multiple companies, we tie your login to your company, so you would have a drop-down box here. If you have different employees of your business that maybe you want to only see certain aspects of your business, maybe they're only allowed to see your employees in location 1. We have control over all the restrictions and accesses in the system itself. So if we have an employee that we want to have access to location 1, we would make sure that they can only see location 1 information. So if we have 3 locations and 3 supervisors overseeing those, we can set those access levels to basically show that and make sure that they're only seeing that. That goes as far as entering payroll hours. So if they're only seeing location 1, they're entering payroll for only location 1, then you have the second supervisor entering for location 2. It all flows over to your main database, which we see. So all of that is a capability in the system, and it's really customizable to your business. See if I can go through some of our questions here. If there's any questions that come up after this webinar, of course, you can email us, and we'll be glad to answer those for you. We had a client ask us if everyone's going to be moved to this or if they have an option. Right now there's always an option. We have a lot of different systems out there. For example, we have a more robust system that's called On Demand, but we also have On The Go. But right now it's not mandatory that you go to On The Go. So that's an option for you guys. If you think it's beneficial, of course we can move you over to it.
9996. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, let's do it.
We had a question about a former employee that has an employer that has access to building reports. So building reports and the report and the export wizard is only available as of right now on demand.
Thank you.
We've also had the question a lot of, can I have on demand and on the go? And the answer is yes. There are charges associated with both of those though, but you have the capability of having both softwares. There are fees associated with the platform itself. I'm going to take into consideration all these questions, and if you did give a question about pricing, we will email it over to you so you have an exact aspect of it. One thing to remember is it's very minimal, and you'll have all your information at your fingertips, so you won't have to wait for a report or something like that. I know we usually charge a $5 per report fee. So if you run 2 reports, you're basically covering your cost of having the access itself. So that is something to remember. It's a very minimal fee. I believe it's under $15 a month. So, and when is it available? You can have it right now. We turn the feature on. Depending on currently what software you are using, there might be a little more lag time. But if you are currently on the system that has this platform and on the cloud features, we basically just turn it on and it goes live. A question just came in about the pricing, so about having both of them. So I will email that person directly and give them that pricing. Making some few notes here. Is there any more questions that I can answer? Here comes one. All right. It is a very user-friendly system, and like I said, you can access it anywhere. So it's a great offer that we have here at Extra Help, and we think it's very beneficial for our clients. So it is cloud-based. Any questions that you guys have, please email us and we'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, this concludes the actual webinar itself, and we will get back with anyone that had questions on the pricing and get you started and switched over if you'd like. Thank you for your time.